What is up, people, and welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. We have been crushing it the entire 2025. I've been coming on your screens and telling you exactly who to bet, when to bet it, and how they're gonna get the job done. And boys, I'm not right every single time, but the majority of the time in 2025, I have been right, and me and you have been cashing. And you can just go back and look at the comments, but more importantly, look at my track records to determine that fact. I'm not just a guy who comes on YouTube and gives you predictions. I actually track all of my bets, win, lose, or draw over the last 6 years. So you can go back and check all of the bets that I've placed. So I can't hide from anything, boys. And we're up 100 units in 2025. Most people on planet Earth hasn't done that. And a lot of that info I'm giving out to you guys for free every single week on this very YouTube channel. So in this episode, I'm looking to do the exact same. And we have Mingyang Zhang taking on Johnny Walker. And you know I'm gonna give you the banger bets for that matchup. But it's not only that matchup, we have former title holder Aljamain Stirling taking on former two-time title challenger in Brian Ortega. We also have another title challenger, Sergei Pavlovich, taking on rising contender Waldo Cortes-Acosta. There is some violence gonna go down in China this weekend. And of course, a bunch of Chinese fighters on the card. We already spoke about Zhang, but we also have Sumudaerji, and he is taking on Borjas, and a couple of other banger matchups listed throughout this Shanghai China card. I don't wanna waste any more of your time. I wanna get straight to the main event of the evening. So run the intro and I'll see you on the other side. So welcome back to the channel, boys and girls. I hope you've had a good week. Man, I'm ready to get straight into this card. First of all, though, I do want to say thank you for all of the new subscribers. I want to say thank you for all of the nice comments that I've received over the last couple of weeks. As I said, I'm not just the average YouTube predictor, right? I track my bets on a third-party website, which means I cannot fake my record. I cannot fake my bets like a lot of the frauds in this industry. You know, the entire industry, betting industry, sports betting picks industry, whatever you want to call it, is littered with frauds. I've always tried to differentiate myself from the industry by doing things such as tracking every single bet I've ever placed, by doing things such as posting my bet slips consistently for 6 years, posting up quarterly reviews, yearly reviews at the end of every single year, not hiding from any loss at all. Because remember, I was a sports bettor first. I was making big money on MMA betting way before I made any videos on YouTube, which is unlike 99% of the other people on here. So doing these things over the years to differentiate myself, I feel like that's finally being noticed by the subscribers that have subscribed to me, by the comments that I'm receiving. So I appreciate you guys noticing this because, like I said, I have made an effort to differentiate myself from all of the frauds because I don't like the industry I'm in. I just happen to be in it. I love the industry, but I hate it because it's full of frauds. So thanks for noticing, and we're all gonna win. We're all gonna make it. I'm gonna continue to make content, and I'm gonna continue to do my best to not only give you one single prediction for this upcoming card, but to make you a better sports bettor and to help increase your bankroll, because those two things are very, very different. I'll touch more on that a little bit later, but let's get straight into the main event of the evening. We have Johnny Walker taking on Mingyang Zhang in the main event of Shanghai, China. So they are putting Mingyang Zhang, their big Chinese prospect, in a main event in his home country of China. So we already know who the UFC is trying to push in this one. So Mingyang Zhang has a record of 19 wins and 6 losses, with Johnny Walker coming into this fight with a record of 21 wins and 9 losses. So currently they have no odds for this fight, but I believe that the bookies are gonna open up this fight, or at least the line will settle as Mingyang Zhang is a big favorite. You know, maybe like minus 300 on Mingyang Zhang, maybe like plus 250 on Johnny Walker. I'm not saying I agree with it, I'm saying that's where I believe the line will be upon open or when it settles. So let's get straight into the fight. You know, Mingyang Zhang is a very interesting character to me, right? Because early on in his career, this guy took a lot of losses, and a lot of losses against guys who were not very good. You know, he lost against the notorious Askar Mozarov. And if you guys remember who that is, that's the guy who faked his record to get into the UFC, fought Alonzo Menifeld, was finished in the first round. Like, it was a very interesting case. He then got booted out of the UFC. He actually has a legit win over Mingyang Zhang. You know, he knocked out Mingyang Zhang with a left hook, knocked him out clean in that fight. So, you know, Mingyang Zhang definitely has improved because the guy is making waves in the UFC, you know, dominating everyone he's ever fought, you know, knocking people out brutally. Some of the most brutal knockouts I've seen in UFC light heavyweight division have come from Mingyang Zhang, and he's only been in the organization for less than 2 years. So it's actually pretty impressive what he's done considering where he's come from. Like I said, pretty bad losses on his record, getting finished in multiple losses, not only knocked out by Askar Mozarov, but also choked out by other fighters as well. But one thing that has to be said about those fights is that he was a very young lad when those fights happened. So you go back and look at the Askar Mozarov fight, the guy was 18 years of age, right? He's only 26 now. He's 26 years of age and he's headlining a main event in his home country of China. So that's pretty impressive for a 26-year-old, you know. Not a lot of 26-year-olds are able to headline an event in their home country. So the UFC is definitely believing in Mingyang Zhang to some degree, and they definitely feel like he's a prospect who is on the rise and maybe could make waves in the division. And honestly, I'm not going to disagree with them, you know. I think you could easily hold a lot of his losses against him. 6 losses it's a decent amount of losses considering he's undefeated in the UFC. So all of the losses came against lower competition outside of the UFC. But like I said, the guy was a young guy, man. He was 17 years old, 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid when he's taking these losses. He's on a 12-fight win streak since his last loss. Hasn't lost since 2019. 6 years without a loss, 12 fights in those 6 years. Every single fight he's won. Every single fight he's won in round 1, and 10 out of the 12 wins have been via knockout. So I know why he's main eventing in China. I mean, the guy is on an insane run, and not only has he done it outside of the UFC, but he's done it inside the UFC as well. And yes, he hasn't had the best level of competition, but he's still gone out there and treated those guys like they wasn't the best level of competition. And at the end of the day, I know Anthony Smith has retired, right, after that fight, but you still have to be a certain level to beat Anthony Smith. And he didn't only beat him, he knocked him out in round 1. He got a performance of the night bonus in that fight, and he got a performance of the night bonus in his last 3 fights. So the guy's an exciting fighter, right? He's a marauder. One thing that's very interesting, because boys, I always try and give you a little bit of different piece of the pie, a little bit of different point of view than maybe other predictors or other YouTube channels will give you. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you Mingyang Zhang has great power on the feet, but we know this, right? And I will get into that because it is important. But something I want to let you guys know, which you might not know, and that's why you listen to me, right? Because I do the research and I go back throughout the fighter's entire history to find a few nuggets that we can hopefully turn into profit, right? And something I noticed, boys, is that if you go back and watch this guy's early fights, he's a grappler. He's a through and through grappler. He ain't throwing strikes. He's taking you down, trying to get into full mount, dominating from top position, and most of the time hunting for submissions, which is a far cry from what he does now, because the guy just goes out and slings heavy leather on the feet, mainly with his fists and elbows. But he wasn't always like that. He was a grappler back in the day. Go back and watch that Askar Mozarov fight. I mean, he don't want to be on the feet of Askar Mozarov. He's taking him down. He's body locking him. He's slamming him. He's moving into full mount. I mean, the guy is a pure grappler. Even his loss against Elias, which was his last loss, right? He's grappling with that dude. He's dominating him. He put him in a crucifix position. He actually got reversed from that position and then got rear naked choke shortly thereafter. And I don't know what happened, boys, but something happened in this guy's career where he's like, you know what? I'm not going to grapple anymore. I'm just going to knock these fools out on the feet. And that's exactly what he's done over the last 12 fights, at least 10 of the last 12 fights, right? He's just gone out there and just knocked them out on the feet. So something happened in this guy's career, maybe when he turned around 21 and he just decided, you know what? I'm a better striker. I've got good durability and I can knock these guys out. Now let's speak about his durability for a minute. Like I said, I've seen this guy knocked out on the feet before, brutally, right? I've seen him put unconscious, completely out cold. But like I said, he was young when I've seen that happen. He seems like his durability is increased. It seems like he's a little bit better at taking shots now, but he's definitely still there to be hit. You know, his striking defense leaves a lot to be desired, even in his recent fights, right? It's not just going back to his earlier fights like I keep on mentioning, because the first fight he had in the UFC was against Tuco Tokos, right? Man, that was a brawl. Like, that was a barroom brawl, and Mingyang Zhang got cracked with massive shots by someone who I don't consider a good striker in Tokos. But at the end of the day, you don't have to be a good striker to land on Mingyang Zhang, because he's going to walk forward into range and tank shots on the chin because he thinks that he can take the shots better than you can take his. And that proved to be right throughout most of his career, right? Outside of his early career, it definitely proved to be right in that fight. But he took big shots in that fight. And there's just something in my head thinking like, one day this guy's going to get knocked out cold, because you just can't fight like that in the light heavyweight division, man. You're going to get knocked out eventually. You can't just walk forward into range and just take shots. You're going to get knocked out, especially because he has been knocked out before. So I don't think this guy was born with like an unbelievable chin, never seen before chin, Marvin Vettori, Max Holloway chin. You know, we've never seen it before. I don't think the guy is like that, right? He's definitely got a good chin, a solid chin, but I feel like at some point someone slick on the feet is going to knock him out. So that's just something I wanted to put out there, right? Because it's going to be hard to play this guy at -3, -400, which I believe he will start to be lined if he keeps on knocking these guys out. It's going to be hard to play him at those lines when we know that he's going to take shots no matter who he fights. And man, light heavyweights, they crack hard. Johnny Walker, he's not the best fighter of all time, but something he can do is put you out cold on the feet, right? He's got very dynamic striking, flying knees, elbow knockouts, back fist knockouts, all of this type of stuff. So yeah, it's just something I wanted to mention. Mingyang Zhang gets hit a lot and probably is going to get knocked out one day. Speaking of that Tuco's fight again, because we can speak about the negatives, right? But man, let's speak about the positives. That's one of the most brutal knockouts I've ever seen in UFC history. He landed a huge leaping right hook over the guard or around the guard of Tuco. Tuco's put him unconscious with the first shot. But boys, he didn't stop there. He landed 5 brutal ground and pound shots after that. None of them needed to be landed. The fight was over on the first shot. He landed 5 subsequent shots, so 6 unanswered shots. 6, boys, brutal. That's the type of the stuff of nightmares. That's the type of stuff that gives you CTE, right? And obviously the referee took a while to get involved there, but it's because Mingyang Zhang just landed 5 in quick succession. But it was a very brutal, hellacious knockout. And this is what Zhang does, right? He is a marauder. He's a brutality guy, and he's not going to stop until the ref pulls him off you. So one thing, and I'm going to pivot to Johnny Walker in a minute, but one thing I want to say is I noticed a few things in Mingyang Zhang's game that can definitely be exploited in Johnny Walker's game. Now let's pivot to Johnny Walker a little bit. Johnny Walker's a very interesting case because, you know, when he first came into the UFC, the guy thought, a lot of people thought the guy could potentially challenge Jon Jones, but it's because he was getting some strange, tricky knockouts, right? He got the flying knee, even beat the likes of Khalil Roundtree in one of his first fights. And I think the first 3 fights of his career went under 2.5 minutes. So they went under 2.5 minutes, right? 3 fights in less than 3 minutes, and they're all knockout wins. So everyone was, you know, saying this guy's the truth. He's 6'4", massive guy. He can maybe challenge Jon Jones. Then he got a step up in competition, fought Corey Anderson, and then his chin issues kind of showed itself in that fight. And that's almost been the tale of Johnny Walker's career, you know. Even if you go back and look at one of his very first fights on the regional, he's getting knocked out by Wagner Prado, and you go back and you see that fight where, and this was one of the funniest fights in UFC history, in MMA history. I'm going to put this on the screen for you so you guys can watch it along with me. And I'm not going to say laugh, you know, because I don't want to be disrespectful, but it's definitely a funny fight. He fought Henrique Silva, and the fight lasted only 18 seconds, you know, kind of similar to that Corey Anderson fight that we just mentioned. And the fight lasted 18 seconds and he got dropped about 4 times in the fight. Like, how can you get dropped 4 times in 18 seconds? It almost doesn't make sense. And then he eventually got KO'd, you know. But his chin issues have been there from the very start of his career in the fights I mentioned, and they continued into the UFC career in the fight I also mentioned with Corey Anderson. But you even look at some fights he's won, Ryan Spann fight. Man, he's hurt in that fight very badly. You know, it looks like he's going to lose the fight, and then he gets a elbow knockout when Ryan's in on a takedown. So yeah, he's just a very unusual guy. The guy's getting knocked out in 18 seconds, knocked out in 2 minutes, but then he's knocking people out in 2 minutes. The guy's looking like he's gonna be knocked out, then he knocks the guy out. It's like he's a very volatile fighter. He's a fighter that could probably finish anyone on his day with a crazy flying knee, but he's a guy who could probably get finished by anyone on his day. You know, Corey Anderson, not really known for his finishing, not really known for his knockout ability, at least in the UFC. You know, after he moved to PFL, he got quite a few finishes, but most of them were from ground and pound. Most of them were because his opponent tired out. But you know, in the Johnny Walker fight, I mean, it was just on the feet, you know, he just starched him on the feet like he was an elite striker. So yeah, I feel like Johnny Walker's always a little bit dodgy to get a read on. You never really know what type of version Johnny Walker's gonna rock up with. But one thing you do know is that he's always gonna have a subpar chin. He's always gonna have a below average chin. Now, there's been a few fights, again, where his chin is held up, like the Nikita Krylov fight. You know, Krylov just basically wrestled him in that fight. But I mean, before that fight, the fight doesn't go to a decision. probably was lined about -500, but somehow it went to a decision. So again, it speaks volumes on how unpredictable Johnny Walker is, right? One thing I wanted to mention that I mentioned earlier, boys, if you remember, I said there's something in Mingyang Zhang's game that I think could be exploited in Johnny Walker's game, and that is the leaping hooks, right? The leaping overhands, the leaping hooks. Now, I've seen multiple times Mingyang Zhang likes to stalk his opponent, pressure his opponent, but then leap in with a hook and turn the corner around the opponent's guard. Like, it looks like he's out of range because the opponent's very far away, but he's able to leap in, and as he leap in, then he extends the hook round the opponent's guard. And I have seen that happen to Johnny Walker more than one time, most notably in his very last fight against Volkan Ozdemir. You know, Volkan Ozdemir was landing the leaping left hook with ease against Johnny Walker and hurt him very badly. Not long before the finish, he landed the leaping left hook. And like I mentioned in the Tokos fight, Mingyang Zhang versus Tokos, that was the shot that actually ended the fight. It was the leaping right hook, right? But he can also throw it with the left hand. I've seen it. So I'm actually going to call that as the knockout shot here. And obviously, it's very hard to call knockout shots. We actually called it last week or the week before last with Christian Leroy Duncan. I said that on this very YouTube channel that he's probably going to land a spinning shot or an elbow against Eric Anders and in round one, and all three of those things happen. So, you know, sometimes you can call the specific shot, although it is very hard because anything can happen in MMA. But I'm going to go out on a limb and call the leaping right or left hook, the leaping hook, as the shot that puts Johnny Walker down in this fight. And that is my official prediction. Mingyang Zhang via knockout in round one. I mean, it's not a hot take, you know, it's not a hard prediction because Mingyang Zhang has knocked out every opponent in round one in his UFC career. And I feel like he's at a big durability advantage here. And I think he's going to do that here. I also feel like he's got some grappling upside. If Johnny Walker gets on top, he could make it dangerous because I haven't liked what I've seen from Mingyang Zhang on bottom. But like I said, he was a young kid when I see those fights. It's been a long time. So yeah, I feel like he's not only got the grappling upside, he's also a better striker. He also hits harder, in my opinion, and he's also got a better chin. So, I mean, you put all of that into the pot. It's Mingyang Zhang all day here for me. I mean, he's getting a set-up fight in China. The UFC know what they're doing, but more importantly than that, because it doesn't matter what the UFC want to do. You know, it matters what I believe is going to happen with my tape, because I trust myself more than the UFC. The UFC want to put on great fights. The UFC don't want to make money from betting on MMA, which is what I want to do. So, my eye is more specialized to predicting the winner or predicting the specific outcome or predicting where the value is. And I can't tell you the value because there's no betting odds out at the moment, but I can tell you that I believe Mingyang Zhang is going to win this fight via round one knockout, and I might look to play that, mate. I mean, if we get a -125 on a round one knockout, I know a lot of people don't like to lay chalk on those type of bets, but at the end of the day, man, the guy is going to do 100% of what he can do to make that bet cash. So yeah, I think he's going to walk him down, stalk him. Johnny Walker could definitely land something big, but outside of that, I think Zhang's going to knock him out in round one. The under 1.5 rounds should be a decent play in this one. And that's it, boys. Mingyang Zhang KO round one is my official prediction. Next fight of the night, we got former title holder in the bantamweight division, Aljamain Sterling, taking on former title challenger in the featherweight division, Brian Ortega. So Aljamain Sterling coming into this fight with a record of 24 wins with only 5 losses. Very, very high level record. Brian Ortega comes to this fight with a record of 16 wins and 4 losses. So this is a very interesting fight because, you know, both of these fighters have been in the UFC for a very long time. You know, they fought for titles, held titles on the Aljo side, and it's like an aging veterans fight, but that are still pretty high level and still, you know, around that top 10 of the division. Now, something that was interesting to me when I was looking into the fight is that Aljamain Sterling is actually older in this fight. He's 36 years old to Brian Ortega's 34. I don't know why that was interesting, just in my head. Brian Ortega's a little bit older than him. But yeah, that wasn't the case. And Aljamain, you know, moved up to 145 pounds, and he's had, I'm not going to say resurgence, because it's not like he was down at 135. He just got knocked out by Sean O'Malley and moved up. So his friend and his teammate, Merab Dvalishvili, could take over that division, and that's exactly what he's done. But he's looked good at 145 in my opinion. You know, his debut was against Calvin Kattar, obviously dominated Calvin Kattar. Not really aging well, because Calvin Kattar looked a shell of himself against Steve Garcia in his last fight, probably the worst performance of his entire career. So, you know, it's a win that's not aging well at all. And then the win that, or the fight that was actually aging pretty well, in my opinion, was Movsar Evloev fight. You know, Aljo went 50-50 fight with Movsar Evloev. You know, in my opinion, that was a 50-50 fight that he lost, but he lost it at plus 200 odds. So people didn't really think he was going to win, but it happened to just be a 50-50 fight, you know, which is very, very impressive in my opinion. Now, Movsar Evloev is the dark horse of the division. Movsar Evloev had a chance to dethrone one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in Ilia Topuria. Movsar Evloev could be the next title holder at featherweight. I mean, at this point in his career, I'd have to favor him over someone like Alexander Volkanovski. I'd almost go out on a limb and say he's probably my favorite to become champion in the entire division. I mean, it's definitely him or Gene Silva. And you can say it's Gene Silva, you can say it's Movsar. I believe that it's going to be close either way. So for Aljo to have a 50-50 fight with him, very solid in my opinion. Aljo showed great scrambling skills in that one. Aljo showed great wrestling skills in that one. And at points was dominating Movsar Evloev. I mean, he never dominated for an extended period of time. No one did. But at points, like, he did some very cool stuff. You know, he was able to take him down. He was able to out-scramble him. He was able to end up on top. I mean, very, very high-level stuff, right? And it kind of is comparative to this fight, because if Aljo takes down Brian Ortega, he's going to be able to out-scramble him, in my opinion. I mean, looking at that Movsar Evloev fight, Evloev's probably one of the best wrestlers, scramblers in the entire division. He's probably the best. He's probably the best wrestler slash scrambler in the entire division outside of Aljo. So that, like I said, that proved a lot. And I don't think Brian Ortega is going to have it in him to scramble with Aljo consistently. Now, I feel like Brian Ortega is way more tricky with the submissions than Movsar Evloev. And we know when we get a wrestler going up against a jiu-jitsu player, sometimes these wrestlers can get caught in deep submission attempts. Sometimes these wrestlers can get caught in a triangle choke or a front choke, or find themselves in a bad position and get submitted. It can happen, right? But most of the time, they're able to out-scramble, out-maneuver, and end up on top. And that's kind of how I see the fight playing out here. Now, I did listen to an interview from Aljamain Stirling earlier in the week, and he said that he's not going to go out there and wrestle. This fight might not even hit the mat, which I didn't really like to hear, but at the same time, I don't listen to these UFC fighter interviews, because you know what? And I'm specifically speaking about game plans, right? When I'm speaking about other stuff like injuries and stuff, sometimes you have to listen, right? Or where their mind's at. But speaking about game plans, I don't listen to these guys, because they say they're going to go out and do one thing and they do the exact opposite. The example I always give is when Benil Dariush said he's going to go out there and out crazy Tony Ferguson. He's going to show the world who's the crazy one. It's not Tony, it's him. And then he went out there and had the most boring game plan ever and had a 15-minute grappling performance where he just shot for the legs and tried to keep top position for 15 minutes, right? So yeah, I don't listen to them ever since that day. But yeah, there's been countless examples. So Aljo's saying the fight might stay on the feet. I don't think so. Both these guys are grapplers, and sometimes the fight can stay on the feet when that happens. I don't think it's going to happen. Aljamain Sterling has shot takedowns in basically every single fight I've ever seen of him, and he's going to shoot takedowns here, right? And I trust him to stay on top and beat Brian Ortega to the position. Somehow I believe that the younger Brian Ortega is more washed than Aljamain Sterling. I feel like he's a little bit slower. I feel like his reaction time is a little bit slower. And I just feel like Aljo's, I'm not going to say he's getting better, but I think he's definitely fully in the game, mindset fully in the game. I was lucky enough to watch Aljamain Sterling and Yusuf Zalal train together at the UFC PI just last week. And I'm not going to say anything specific, of course, but the only thing I will say is that I liked what I saw from Aljo. Aljo's on the ball. His mind's in the right place. I liked what I saw between him and the coaches. And look, at the end of the day, training is training. It doesn't tell me much. It just tells me that the guy's still in the game, and the guy's still pushing, man, and the guy still wants to win, and the guy's still fully involved in this game and definitely trying to improve specifically, which was great to see from a former title holder, that he's still trying to improve, still asking questions, still trying to get better on the mat. So yeah, I feel like Aljamain Sterling is the one that has more to give in the sport, you know, in my humble opinion. And I feel like we're going to see that play out this weekend, you know. Brian Ortega, good fighter. Never reached the heights that Aljo did, but it's in a different weight class. Will the weight matter? I don't think so, because like I said, it didn't seem to matter against Movsar Evloev, who's one of the most jacked featherweights you're ever going to see. And I mean, guys, let's be real. Like, how does Brian Ortega usually win fights? He usually wins fights by outlasting his opponent. Right? That's basically what he does. He's kind of a zombie. He always walks forward and he tries to outlast his opponent. If he can do that against Aljo, then he's gonna have a chance to win. And I do feel like he won't be finished by Aljo. I think his jiu-jitsu level compared to Aljo's is comparable in the fact that, yeah, Aljo might be able to maintain certain positions, but I don't think Aljo's going to submit him. I think Aljo's very good at jiu-jitsu himself, but I don't think he's going to submit Brian Ortega. So the fight probably will go long, which means Ortega will have the best chance to win, but I still don't think he's going to win. Now, something I want to mention, and hopefully you guys can let me know in the comments, is this fight a 3-rounder or a 5-rounder? At the moment, when I'm recording this video, there ain't much information out there. Now, this video ain't gonna go out for 4 days. So by the time you see this video, the odds are gonna be out. Probably there's gonna be some confirmation on if the fight's a 3-rounder or a 5-rounder. Obviously, based on what I just said, the 5-round nature would benefit Brian Ortega. but the 3-round nature would benefit Aljo. I'm picking Aljo in both iterations of the fight, but I'm picking Aljo more cleanly, more heavily if it's a 3-rounder, just based on his wrestling and just overall skill set. We should speak about the striking a little bit, boys, because, you know, Aljo's actually a deceptively good striker. The guy is always going to throw more volume than his opponent, 90% of the time. Here's a stat for you guys. Aljo has had 21 fights in the UFC, and he has outlanded his opponent 18 times. 18 out of 21 fights. For a grappler, he has outlanded his opponent. That's crazy, but the stat gets even crazier. The 3 times where he hasn't outlanded his opponent, one was against Marlon Moraes. The fight lasted 1 minute. He got knocked out. Marlon landed 7 strikes. He landed 3. So we can almost throw that fight out. The other 2 times were against Peter Yan, the second fight, where Peter Yan outlanded him by 1 strike. Again, that's not really getting outlanded if it's 1 strike. We can literally basically throw that out. It was even, right? So there's only 1 real time where he got outlanded. And let's speak about that one. It was against Sean O'Malley, where Sean O'Malley had 25 strikes. Again, a short fight where he got knocked out. And Aljo landed 17 strikes. So it's an 8-strike differential. It's not much, so it's kind of crazy, man. Like, Aljo is a very deceptively good striker. This guy has elite striking metrics. This guy is coming like one of the best strikers we've ever seen in the UFC, outlanding 18 of 21, and I honestly throw away 2 of the 3 fights where he hasn't outlanded his opponent, and even the one where the other one that I do include where he didn't with Sean O'Malley. It's still kind of debatable. I mean, it's a very short fight. He got knocked out and there's only 8-strike differential. So yeah, the guy is an elite fighter all around. On the feet, I feel like he will out-volume his opponent again. Brian Ortega is going to get out-volumed again. Brian hits harder. Brian's a better boxer, but Aljo is a better kicker and he's got better footwork. So he's probably going to be able to stay on the outside, play matador, and anytime Brian enters range, duck under, get the takedown. And that's all she wrote, man. I'm picking Aljamain Sterling in this fight. I don't know where their odds are at because they're not open. I'm assuming Aljo's going to be lined about -200, you know, whether that's where it opens or where it settles. But yeah, that's going to be my prediction of where the line's going to open. It's going to be interesting because I'm not an odds maker, boys. You know, I'm not a very good odds maker because where I would line the odds, I know that the bookmakers are not going to line the odds that way because, in my opinion, I'm a better odds maker than the bookmakers, and that's proven with the amount of money I've been able to make on MMA betting, right? So it's kind of hard to put myself in an odds maker's shoes because I know that where they're going to line the fight or where the market's going to line the fight is not where I would line the fight. So it's kind of hard to put myself in the middle of that, you know what I mean? I'm always looking at things through my own betting angle rather than an odds maker angle, but I'm assuming Aljo's going to be like -200 or something. I'm kind of hoping because it could be a potential play for me. I feel like we can get the price down by going Aljamain via decision because, like I said, pretty unlikely that Brian Ortega is going to be finished in this one. I mean, the guy's durable as hell. You watched that Max Holloway fight. I know he got finished, but he didn't really get finished. The doctor stopped it. I know you saw that Alexander Volkanovski fight, and he did get finished, but somehow he didn't get finished. So that speaks a lot to his durability. I know you saw that Diego Lopez fight. I mean, Diego's finishing everyone, right? And he wasn't able to do it against Brian Ortega. So yeah, the guy's got elite durability. We know that. So I feel like Aljo decision could be a solid play for us. And that's it, boys. I'm picking Aljamain Sterling via confident decision, out volumes him on the feet, plays the matador with the footwork, ducks under, gets takedowns when he needs to. Maybe he's in like a deep Kimura or a triangle at one point, but he pushes through, is able to come out on top, ghillie or something like that, and he just rides out top position and outstrikes him for the duration of the 15 or 25 minute fight, and he wins a clean decision. The next fighter now, we have Sergei Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Sergei Pavlovich coming into the fight with a record of 19 wins and 3 losses, with Waldo Cortes-Acosta coming into this fight with a record of 14 wins with only 1 loss. It's kind of crazy to see only 1 loss on the Waldo Cortes-Acosta side, because in my head, he's lost more times than that. I don't know why, but that's just what it's saying in my head. Now I'm going to be very quick on this fight because my breakdown is pretty simple, but also the fight could be very quick as well. I feel like there's a pretty solid level difference here, and I feel like Sergei Pavlovich is 1 level above Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Now, I ended up betting on Waldo Cortes-Acosta at +140 odds in his last fight against Sergei Spivak, and I thought that was a decent bet, you know, even after the fight, because I faded Sergei Spivak at -200 odds, and I feel like it was a good bet to fade him, but I also feel like Waldo lost the fight. So remember, guys, it's not all about who wins the fight or who lost the fight. It's more about the odds on the fight. And, you know, you could argue Spivak was like minus 200, but I don't think you can argue he was past that. But I do think that Waldo lost the fight. So I feel like Waldo was a good bet, or decent bet, or average bet. I feel like Spivak was probably a bad bet, but Spivak did deserve to win the fight. And what was crazy about that fight is Spivak basically won the fight on the feet. He couldn't sniff a takedown at all, which is what people thought if they're betting on Spivak, right? He couldn't sniff a takedown, but he also outstruck him on the feet. He walked him down and he beat him up on the feet, man. It was kind of crazy. Now, obviously, it was a close fight, but that was a bad look in my opinion. I mean, if Sergei Pavlovich fights Sergei Spivak, there is no walking Sergei Pavlovich down on the feet. It is a round one knockout. And I know MMA math doesn't always work, but the reason I'm saying that is just show you the level difference on the feet, the power difference on the feet, the durability edge either on the feet. It's like, it's a big, big difference here. Waldo is a good boxer, but Sergei is a good boxer as well. And he's a much more effective boxer. I speak time and time again on effective striker versus better striker. Oftentimes the better striker will lose because they're facing a more effective striker, even though that striker might be worse technically than them. And I feel like we've got that here. Waldo maybe hits the pads a little bit better. If you're a boxing trainer, you might say Waldo throws his shots a bit better. Or you might not, right? But you also might. I'll have to go look at it specifically. But the main point I'm saying is that there's only one guy who is more effective on the feet with the boxing, and that's Sergei Pavlovich. I see Pavlovich and Waldo having some type of staring contest in this one. You know, I had bet Sergei Pavlovich to go to a decision against Alexander Volkov. That was a great bet, obviously. And I've actually bet him to go to decision against Jairzinho Rozenstruik as well. And that was obviously a great bet. I feel like we could see something similar here, you know, to where there's a staring contest. But I do think at some point, Sergei's going to land a big shot. You know, Waldo's going to give Sergei the game he wants. Waldo's not going to pressure him, land a million shots, land great leg kicks, land body kicks like Volkov, land the jab consistently, push him, make him worry about offense. He's not going to do that. He's kind of going to have a low-paced fight with him. And I feel like Pavlovich, like his fight against Shamil Abdurakhimov, will thrive in that environment, will be able to be a little bit more comfortable in that environment. He's coming off a win now, so he's not coming off back-to-back losses. So I feel like he will have improved confidence. And I think Waldo's not going to take that confidence away from him with the way he fights. So if you don't take the confidence away from Sergei Pavlovich, the guy's going to crack you hard, man. Never forget, he cracked Tom Aspinall, the current champion, massively. And if he cracks Waldo Cortes-Acosta with that shot, I think Waldo goes down, man. And I think he has the second loss of his career. So that is going to be my official prediction. Sergei Pavlovich either going to win this fight with big moments via decision, or he's just going to knock him out. More likely he's going to knock him out. I think he gets back to knockout ways. Pavlovich hasn't had a knockout in 4 fights. And that's a lot of fights for Sergei Pavlovich. So I feel like we're going to see the return of the scary marauder, Sergei Pavlovich, knockout in this fight. I don't know if it's going to come in round 1. Maybe it comes in round 2. But I see it coming before the 3rd round starts. And I'm predicting Sergei Pavlovich via KO in this fight. Now, where will the odds open up? I don't know. I feel like Pavlovich, I don't think he'll be massive favorite. You know, I think he'll be like minus 225, minus 250, something like that. But I am predicting him to get the win. Next fight of the night is Sumudaerji versus Kevin Borjas. Sumudaerji, China's own, is fighting in China. So currently, Sumudaerji has a record of 17 wins and 7 losses, while Kevin Borjas has a record of 10 wins with only 3 losses. So a lot more wins for Sumudaerji, but a lot more losses as well. Kevin Borjas, as an underdog, I believe, against Ronaldo Rodriguez, Lazy Boy. We bet him in that fight, and that was a good cash. You know, he was basically just too clean, too slick on the feet for him. The issue is, in this fight, he's going up against someone who is also pretty slick and pretty clean. So I'm very interested to see the striking exchanges in this fight. And something I will say, boys, is that I haven't done my due diligence as well as I wanted to on this fight. You know, and I'm always going to be open with you. I'm always going to be honest with you. I have a deadline, so I have to record this video by a certain time. And at this point in time, it's not that I haven't done my due diligence. I hadn't got a good read on this fight with the fights that I watched. So I want to watch more fights, but I got to make this video now. So listen to my video on my YouTube channel. We go live on Thursday, 8:30 p.m. We're going to do Parlay Madness, and I'll have an in-depth breakdown on this fight. But something I will say now is that I'm super interested in the striking here because both of them are very good strikers. I think Sumudaerji is a little bit cleaner. I think Sumudaerji is a little bit smarter. I think Sumudaerji sets up his shots a little bit better. I think he's got a bit better fight IQ on the feet. I think that his vision is a little bit good, a little bit better on the feet. I also know that he's training with my guy, Sulang Rangbo, who's actually fighting one day before this card. If you don't know about Sulang Rangbo, you better get to know. But anyway, I think that Sumudaerji is going to probably be landing shots better, a little bit more cleaner. But one thing I know about Sumudaerji is that it can be clocked on the feet. and he can be clocked hard. We've seen him get clocked against fighters who probably are not on his level on the feet, people like Charles Johnson, just with physicality, just with pace, just with pressure, just with throwing a lot. Sumudaerji likes to sometimes not have his hands up, you know, he likes to fight off the back foot, he likes to shoulder roll, he likes to move, he's a very slick striker in that. But if you do that, oftentimes you leave yourself open to getting clipped because you're basically relying on your eyes rather than your hands and fundamentals to evade the strikes. And it looks good, and that's how you land counters, that's how you land beautiful shots, but you can also get cracked very hard by doing that. And that did happen against Charles Johnson. So I feel like Borjas is gonna have moments in this fight. I mean, and the moments might even turn into a win. Like, I'm pretty sure, and again, that's why I wanna do a little bit more tape on it, but at the moment, I'm pretty sure Borjas is gonna hurt Sumudaerji. He's got a lot of power, man. He's hurt everyone, bro. Like, at the end of the day, that Cortes-Acosta fight was one of the worst performances ever, but outside of that fight, he's looked solid, man. I mean, he hurt Lazy Boy, who bet him in that fight. He hurt Joshua Van twice. Joshua Van looking like the future champion. And man, that was a close fight against Kevin Borjas, you know, he got hurt twice. Now, I don't think it was that close. I mean, the pace of Van's always gonna win the fight, but he still got hurt twice, right? So that's saying something. I feel like he's gonna hurt Sumudaerji in this fight, but I feel like it could be the Van fight where even though Sumudaerji gets hurt, he still ends up winning. I see this fight going to a decision, even though I feel like both fighters can get hurt. I just feel like the striking acumen of Sumudaerji is maybe one level above. His vision's a little bit better, and he's gonna be able to evade the shots. He's gonna be able to stay on the outside. He's going to land the better shots. And I do feel like Sumudaerji, you know, could get some grappling going here. But maybe on defensive grappling, Borjas might shoot him for a takedown after being frustrated on the feet. And man, we've seen Sumudaerji level up a little bit in the grappling lately. I mean, the front choke that he almost got against Charles Johnson, you know, he was out scrambling, out grappling Charles Johnson. That's very high level in my opinion. Sumudaerji took a year off after the Tim Elliott fight, after being dominated on the mat, and came back a much better grappler. I think he was grappling only for those 9 or 10 months he took off, and it really showed in the Charles Johnson fight, and then kind of again with his takedown defense and his get-up game against Mitch Raposo. So I feel like he's improved. I feel like he's still improving, which is saying something. And yeah, that's going to be my official prediction at the moment. Sumudaerji does a little bit more, does a little bit better. It's a close fight, but he does end up winning the fight via decision. All right, boys and girls, now we've come to the best part of the show. And I want to preface this by saying I'm about to plug my stuff because I believe that my stuff is good enough to be plugged. Like I said at the start of the show, I'm not a YouTube predictor. I'm not just a guy that has analysis on the fights. I'm a professional sports bettor, meaning that the money I make comes from betting on sports. There's been multiple times in my life where my sole income, my only income, has been from betting on not only sports, but betting on MMA. 99.9% of the people on the planet, let alone on YouTube, cannot claim that to be a truth. But I can. So I'm definitely gonna take this time to plug my stuff. If you wanna sign up with me and get access to every single bet that I place every single week on the MMA markets, all you need to do is go to sublaunch.com/lucrativemma and sign up for a package on there. You can even do a weekly package. The only thing I'm gonna say is that sports betting is a long-term game. The reason 99.5% of people lose money from sports betting is because they have no emotional control and they cannot handle losing any bets, right? The only reason I've been able to become financially successful from this game is because I understand that losses come, but guess what? Way more wins come. You just have to stick around for the win. So we're up close to 100 units. That's almost unheard of over 7 months of the year. It almost doesn't exist, lads. So my stuff is the best in the industry and some of the best on the entire planet. I'm not saying that as hyperbole. It's some of the best on the entire planet. Not only do you get access to my bets, you get access to my full card breakdowns. Breakdown on every single fight on the card after I've done full tape on it and thought through my thoughts, not an early prediction video like this. You also get access to my long shot parlays. Those are a lot of fun. Long shot prop bets. The best parlay pieces for every single fight weekend. Direct access to me in my lucrative group chat where we have a bunch of people cashing tickets all throughout the week on other sports as well, and a lot more. I'm not gonna waste your time. But for now, I'm gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune, right? So sign up if you want. You're gonna get direct access to all of that stuff. But I'm gonna spin the Wheel of Fortune right now. If you don't know what the lucrative Wheel of Fortune is, it's where I give you a chance to win 1 month free to my service. All you need to do is leave a good comment down below and you're gonna be automatically entered into next week's draw. If you win the draw, you're gonna get 1 month free to my service. Even if you've signed up already, I'm just gonna extend you for 1 month for free. So you can sign up and still enter the draw. Just leave a good comment down below and you'll be entered. Everybody who left a good comment last week has been entered into this week's draw. And you can see right now, I've got all of the names up here on the lucrative Wheel of Fortune. So let's spin it without further ado and see who wins. All right, so let's go, lads. I'm spinning it now. Lots of names up there, as there is every week. The Wheel of Fortune is growing every single week. All right, it's slowing down now, lads. Who are we gonna get? There we are. Congratulations, Justin Venturoso. You have won yourself 1 month free to the Lucrative MMA Elite Zone. All you need to do is send an email to lucrativebettingtips@hotmail.com with proof that you have commented on this video. Say something like, yo, I won, or yo, I'm in. Screenshot, send it to me. I've got your YouTube channel right now bookmarked so I can tell what comments you have left. So don't try and send an email and scam, you won't get in. And that's it, well done. Congratulations on getting in. That's another show down, lads. And one more thing, make sure you're on the lookout on my YouTube channel, because I have a special UFC Apex vlog coming for you. You don't want to miss that one out. And that's it. Good luck on your bets, guys. See you in the next video.